Hey everyone, welcome to the Ron Johnson Show, and I'm your host, Ron Johnson. On today's show, got a special guest, George Foster, former Georgia Bulldog, Bronco, but more importantly, Detroit Lion. He has an opinion about Kirk Cousins and who would he take, Jared Goff or Kirk Cousins? You're going to want to tune in for that, but also the man Kirk Cousins. He's got a possible 2,000-yard MVP coming up, 2,000-yard receiver, but is he MVP or was that a Freudian slip? Coming up next.
Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcasts. It's endless Minnesota Vikings talk with the diverse voices of your local experts. Now the Ron Johnson Show. On the field, in the broadcast booth, Ron Johnson is Minnesota sports. He's played with them, hung out with them, and grown up with all the big names in Minnesota sports. They're hanging out with Ron Johnson. It's the Ron Johnson Show on the Locked On Sports Minnesota Podcast. And it starts now.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Ron Johnson Show, and I'm your host, Ron Johnson. Today's show is loaded. We got George Foster, as I said. We got a special guest. Make sure you stick around. I'll tell you, Spice Adams, you're not going to want to miss this. Spice Adams is going to surprise George Foster later today. You don't want to miss that because he is a jerk. But we have to talk about Justin Jefferson. He's close to 2,000 yards as well as Tyreek Hill. I posed a question a number of ways. If Tyreek Hill were to get 2,000 yards, if Justin Jefferson gets 2,000 yards, does that water it down? If Justin Jefferson gets 2,000 yards or Tyreek Hill gets more, should Tyreek Hill be the MVP? Is Justin Jefferson the MVP, or is it just going to go to Pat Mahomes, Jalen Hurts? Because those are the two front runners right now. Can a receiver do enough to get MVP? Hasn't happened. Only, I think, 18 non-quarterback MVPs. I think 2 or 3 were defensive guys. The MVP's always been a quarterback race. It's been an offensive-driven league. Cooper Kupp couldn't get it. He had 19,000 yards or 1,900 yards. It's tough. Jerry Rice never won MVP. Randy Moss never won MVP. Terrell Owens never won MVP. Can Justin Jefferson finally win MVP? But before we get to that conversation, remember, you can now find Locked On Sports Minnesota on Amazon Fire and Roku. Just download the Locked On Sports Minnesota app to get all your favorite shows. You'll get all of our videos. It's right there on your screen. Just search. Go to your Roku, search apps, add app, type in Locked In Sports Minnesota, and you'll find it. Well, as I bring my producer in, Sam Ekstrom. Sam, we got to talk about it. 2,000 yards now. It's back in. It was a little bit far. We're like, that 40-something yards. Even though he got a touchdown against the Lions, that 40-something yard, or sorry, game before that, that 40-something yards is just not going to get it done. And then when you see him turn around, and all of a sudden it's like every game he's had a bad game, he's bounced back. And this was a huge bounce back versus the Lions, 223 yards. So now I think 100 and some odd yards per game going forward to get to 2,000.
125.
He's 500, huh? Is it 125?
125 per game.
Yeah. He's 500 yards away from 2,000. He's 400 and some odd number away from just breaking Calvin Johnson's record, which is 1964. Can he get 1965? Can he get 465 yards? I think so. I think he can get 465 yards in 4 games. It's about 110, 120 yards a game. I think he can get it. He might have another 200-yarder in there versus the Packers and the Bears. Who knows? Hopefully Kevin O'Connell is a guy realizing we're in the playoffs. We can't get the number 1 seed. Let's get Justin Jefferson this 2,000 yards now with those last 2 games left in the season. And maybe everybody else is on board for it. But I know coaches don't want to do that because then you don't want to say, well, we're not out here for records. We're out here to win the playoffs. We don't want to overthink this and get Justin Jefferson hurt trying to get him 2,000. There's so much into this. But if he does it, no other receiver's ever done it, does he win MVP? I have an opinion, but I'm going to go to Sam first. Sam, what do you think? Does he win it?
I do not. And I hate that. Like, I hate that wide receivers just don't have a chance. I've got the odds right here. Bet online. Justin Jefferson, after a record-setting performance, is 100-1 to win the MVP. Wow. Long shot. Jalen Hurts is 5-8, so a better than 1-1 chance that he is your MVP. Patrick Mahomes is not far behind. Then Burrow, then Allen, and then Jefferson. He's tied with Tyreek Hill. They're both 100-1. I think you would need to have a handful of 200-yard games to have a chance. I think 2,000 yards is a prerequisite. Like you would need to do it. So if he does, Ron, I think he'll get votes. He might come in third. He might be one of the highest voted wide receivers in the MVP vote, but I don't think he wins it. I just think that this league is so predicated on quarterback play. And it's too bad because this was kind of a good year for it because the quarterbacks were down across the league. And Justin Jefferson's quarterback, Kirk Cousins, Kirk's been getting in the ball, but Kirk's stats are not necessarily that of an MVP. So it's not like Kirk was going to vulture it from him.
Right.
I think the conditions were right for Justin to maybe win it this year. I just don't think he's going to be able to close that gap on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has been too good. The Eagles are too good. And the Chiefs, you could say the same as well. So I think it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard, Ron. But I'm rooting for 2,000 yards. And I think if he can make up that deficit right now at home in the Colts and Giants games and then leave himself with maybe a couple hundred yards total in the last two, I think he might have a good chance.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think this is where I go to, though. If Justin Jefferson goes for 2,000 yards, how many MVP votes does Kirk Cousins get? That's the other conundrum I have, I guess. Why is this all Justin Jefferson or bust? And why isn't Kirk Cousins even getting fifth place votes? Why is Kirk Cousins not even in consideration when Tua at one point was with Tyreek Hill? We know Mike McDaniels is out there. But what is Kevin O'Connell not doing that Mike McDaniels is doing? Nothing. Besides some of the quirky conversations that keep coming up with Mike McDaniels. Oh yeah, did you see that? You're an Iowa fan. Drop a Hawkeye. He's doing all that cool stuff that everybody's oh man, Mike McDaniels mic'd up is the best thing ever. I didn't know I needed it until I needed it. He's just a young coach just talking. It's not anything. He's not saying anything special. Hey, you see that thing you did when you didn't let the first guy tackle you? Good job. And as a joke. And they're oh, break a tackle? Yeah, do that. It's basic stuff. That's why I think even for Kevin O'Connell, like George Foster, we had a chance to chat, and he brought that up too, that the Vikings are pretenders. You see it online now. Everybody's talking about the Vikings are pretenders. They're not contenders. They're pretenders. And I think that's going to hurt Justin Jefferson as well. It's going to hurt Kirk Cousins. People don't buy into what the Vikings are doing at 10-3. They're 10-3, though. You can't deny they won 10 games. 10. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They won 10 games. And so when you think about that, a 10-game stretch, think about Justin Jefferson, probably 2,000 yards, maybe 125. And there's teams that know they have to stop him, but I don't think the 4 teams left have that ability. The Packers, we know Jay Alexander wants to get them. The Bears, I just don't see it. Giants, I don't see it. I think their toughest test is going to be the coach just because of the way they like to move around a little bit. And the way Jeff Saturday knows how to confuse an offensive lineman. He played line, so he's hey, if you do this, and do this, this is what we're thinking. So it's a little bit of inside help. That's the reason why he was an exec on that staff, to kind of help out the offense and just be a voice for the head coach too. But I to answer the question, I'm with you, Sam. I don't agree with you a lot. Well, I do, as long as it's not Kirk Cousins. But I don't see him winning it either. I don't see it because of what this, you talk about Pat Mahomes and that throw to Jared McKinnon, the ridiculous no look playground toss. And when you just have a playground backyard toss and it goes for 6, stuff like that gets played over and over and over again. His improvisation. Sorry, that's how you say the word. That's where people are going to say Kirk Cousins doesn't have that intangible to improvise. He just goes down, or he has to be this. And when he's running, rolling out, you have to know that, yeah, he is that guy. But Justin Jefferson still might have 2,000 yards. And if he doesn't get MVP and he gets 2,000 yards, it's a travesty. It's erroneous on all accounts. And they need to rethink the award. Just say best quarterback in the NFL award of the year. Because that's pretty much what it's been over the last, whatever, since it's been out. 18 guys since the league has started that did not play quarterback won the MVP. And there was a kicker. A kicker in 1972 won NFL MVP. What are we doing? A kicker
Unbelievable.
in 1972, if I'm right. I think it was 72, 76, something like that. Or 86. I don't know. It was 76, 82, 72, or 86. There's a 6 or a 2 in it, and there's a 7 or an 8. One of those years. Guy's name is Mark Mosley for the Washington Commanders. Won the NFL MVP. Like, a kicker won NFL MVP. Like, what are we doing? Like, how do you vote for a kicker?
I've got a mind-blowing stat for you, Ron. So prior to last week, so this is before Jefferson went off against the Lions, before Brady fell apart against the 49ers. Brady had the same odds as Jefferson going into last week. Brady, who has been awful this year. Like that alone shows how prejudiced it is against wide receivers. If Brady was on the same level as Justin Jefferson last week.
But Brady was ahead of Kirk Cousins, right? Or
Kirk wasn't even on the board. Like,
exactly.
I don't even think Kirk was. Yeah, that's crazy.
I said this over and over again. If Tom Brady put on number 8 and wore purple, he would be the lead vote getter right now for NFL MVP with the season that Justin Jefferson's having and the 10-3 Minnesota Vikings led by Minnesota's own Tom Brady. Probably was in Minnesota for a day after he was born, and then they whisked him away to wherever he lived in Michigan. But when you think about that with Tom Brady, he's on the board and he's not doing much. Kirk Cousins isn't even on the board. Like, he's not even on people's radar to get MVP. If he wins the Super Bowl, he won't get MVP. It'll go to Justin Jefferson or somebody. It might even go to, like, Garrett Bradbury, because they're going to say, man, Kirk Cousins stood upright the entire game. First ever Super Bowl MVP is the center. Garrett Bradbury, you're going to Disney World. Tell us what you think. And he, and like most offensive linemen, I don't know, chicken? Oh, Disney World. I'm going to Disney World. Like, what are we doing? What are we, like, why are we so biased? Why is it the fact that Justin Jefferson at 2,000 yards is not one of the lead vote getters right now? I get it. And that's why I asked Hobie that question. Is it watered down a little bit because Tyreek Hill might get 2,000 yards? 17 games. Of course he can get 2,000 yards. I got 1964 and 16 games, Calvin Johnson can say. True. Is it a yards per game record? Like, what hey, it is what it is. Justin Jefferson probably won't win MVP. We get it. But it's time to hang out with Ron Johnson. We got George Foster coming up, former Georgia Bulldog, former Detroit Lion. He's going to tell you some stuff that he thinks about Kirk Cousins coming up. But before we get into that, if you want endless Vikings talk, make sure you subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube, where you can find all of our videos, all of our shows, instant podcasts after every game, and the Vikings press conferences delivering all the biggest news. Like our videos, leave your comments leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And we have a word from our sponsors.
BetOnline.net. It's the #1 source for sports betting lines, trends, news, and analysis, and we're tracking the Vikings line all week long. The Vikings are favored by 4 on Saturday against the Indianapolis Colts, over under 48.5. You can get that line and all the NFL lines and all the college football, NBA, UFC, golf, whatever sport you can imagine lines at betonline.net. They've also got great sports podcasts. Check it out today on your laptop, desktop, mobile device, whatever you have. It's BetOnline, where the game starts.
And now it's time to hang with Ron Johnson. And hanging with Ron Johnson segment, I got George Foster. For those who don't know, played for the Georgia Bulldogs. That's one of the main reasons I wanted to get him on. But there's another reason. He's a friend of Spice Adams. You'll find out a little bit more about that story as we bring George Foster in, played for the Detroit Lions. That's another reason. And I'm going to start out there with the tweet, man. I tweeted about the Lions fans. Evan Fox over at the Pat McAfee show. I was on the Pat McAfee show. He's a big Lions fan. They love to rag on the Lions, but I'm from Detroit, born and raised, always loved my Lions. But it's been a tortured fan base, and you tweeted, well, it's not as bad as being a Vikings fan, man. Where's the vitriol for the Vikings fan base versus the Lions fan base coming from, man?
Hey, man. First of all, it's the same conference, same division. And then I just hate the Vikings, man. I hate them. I played for the Lions, for a couple years, and I hate the Vikings. It's natural. And I feel like they're pretenders. I don't like pretenders, and I feel like they've been pretending for the last however long they've had Kirk.
Oh, wow. Okay, this is Kirk Cousins. Look, Kirk Cousins hate. So you look at two quarterbacks. You got the Vikings, Kirk Cousins, and you got Jared Goff with the Lions. When you think about the biggest changes in the two quarterbacks has been system. Jared Goff has been with the Rams, had a good system there, came over to the Lions, had to learn a little bit, but seems like they're getting on track now. But if you had to pick between the two quarterbacks, Kirk Cousins or Jared Goff, who are you picking to lead you to a Super Bowl? Because there is a chance, 21% chance now the Lions make the Super Bowl.
I didn't know that was a percentage, but hey, that sounds pretty good considering all things considered. But as far as the quarterback goes, I think they're very similar, and I never thought about that. I never thought about comparing the two until you just brought this up. They're similar quarterbacks. I don't think they're, transcendent quarterbacks or, elite by any stretch. They play up to situations and what's surrounding them on the team, offensively and defensively. Um, and so it just depends on what's around them. The Vikings have the makings of really a pretty good team, a team that could, possibly beat anybody, any given
Yep.
day, being that they have nice skill positions, all around. When they want to play some defense, they can. Depends on who's healthy, So, and the same thing goes with Detroit. Detroit is in a different situation. They're building. Kirk's had a little longer in his system than Jared has, and we've seen the progression with the Lions now, and then with their defense, and so as they build, I think they're going to have a shot too to be really competitive. So I can't really make that call. You know what I mean? I
Okay.
have a little bit more sample size with Kirk. When I was scouting, he was when he was with Washington, and I had to know a good deal about him since they were one of my teams. So I kind of have a better feel for him. Jared came around since I've been out of scouting, uh, but they seem very similar.
And talking about scouting, so clearly it sounds like you hate the Vikings, but you got Kirk Cousins, so you really like him, so you can't pick him, and you got Jared Goff in your Lions that drafted you. But looking at the Lions Vikings game, Penei Sewell had a big moment in the game. Played, he came in as a tackle that was eligible, went in motion, caught a ball in the flat for a big first down, and kind of sealed the game. Uh, with you at offensive lineman. Do you think you would have been able to go in motion like that and catch a ball in the flat and turn it upfield and get the first down?
All right. First, we're gonna backtrack a little bit. It was the Broncos that drafted me. I was
Oh, the
traded to the
Broncos drafted you.
Lions.
Lions. Yeah, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
I was traded. I was traded to the Lions. But hey, man, that Penei Sewell play, man, that brought a big happy smile to my face, man. Like y'all gonna start understanding that linemen are best athletes on the field. You know what I mean? It takes a lot to do what linemen have to do. You know what I mean? We're playing against guys that literally nowadays run 4.4, 4.5. You got Michael Parsons screaming off the edge at a 4.3, and you have to get
Yeah.
back, and he don't get a sack every play. That means somebody's blocking him. You know what I mean? We
Right.
have a lot to do, but take it back to what Panay was able to do. Um, Man, would I have been able to do it? Probably so. Probably so, man. Don't sleep on. I would have had to tap back in to my high school days where I played tight end, but I probably would have got it out. Probably in my younger days though. Man, that was great, man. That was great. He looked smooth. You know what I
It
mean? He
was. It was a
caught
good
that
play call.
thing.
I mean,
I thought he could have stayed up, but he didn't want to mess up. You know what I mean? He didn't want to. He wanted to try to stiff arm and then fumble or not get the first down. He saw the marker and he went for it. And I can applaud that. You know what I mean? Next time he gets it, I want to see a little razzle dazzle.
yeah, because I mean, when I went on the Pat McAfee show, that's all they talked about was the same old Lions. That was their deal. Every time they talk about the Lions, they do like a whole chant, the same old Lions. And honestly, in that moment, fourth and short, same old Lions would either been a bad pass, drop pass, like you said, linemen trying to do too much, fumble, scoop and score by the Vikings. There's a lot the old Lions used to do, and these Lions aren't making those mistakes. With Dan Campbell, when you look at everything he's putting out there from a kneecap standpoint, all the other stuff, but do you think that is sustainable with some of the verbiage he uses and the way he coaches with that team?
Yeah, as long as the mindset of the team, matches it. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
can't talk all that and have a soft team. And you know what I mean? And they look like they're playing how their coaches, present themselves. And I believe that's important. I feel like a team takes on the makeup of the leader. So I believe that once he does his thing and he comes across as he is, and they follow suit. You know what I mean? And if you can win games doing that, if you have a tough nose, grinded out team nowadays, it's kind
Hmm.
of like the antithesis of what's going on in the world of football right now, and it actually works. You know what I mean? You look at a team like uh, my Georgia Bulldogs, for example. We
Yeah.
throw it around a little bit, but we will line up and grind that thing out. Most teams not built to defend that, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you got the finesse linebackers, so they can cover these, deadly tight ends. But what happens when you got your finesse linebackers in there and the team wants to, bring everybody in and come downhill? You can't defend it. You know what I mean? So if
Right.
the Lions want to have that mentality and also play, with the same mentality, they can be successful. They just need a few more parts. And I'm interested in seeing how this Lions team progresses, and I hope Dan gets the time to do it because otherwise you're starting over. You know what I
Right.
mean? And nobody wants
Right.
to start over. You know what I mean? Just give it some time.
Well, we talk about you just brought up your Georgia Bulldogs, so we got to talk about it. Another year of dominance. College football playoff coming up. I saw some tweets from you, other people as well. But is that where you stand right now? Or do you think that Georgia's clear cut the best team in the country, and Michigan, because most likely it'll be Michigan, has no chance of beating them in the championship?
This year, I think Georgia's the best team in the country. Um, they were last year, and I don't think I don't, I think it was debatable. You could have threw Bama in there last year, but I think this year, I think they stand alone this year because it's the way they choke teams out on defense. I can't see a team scoring enough to beat them, and Georgia has, you know, they've toned it down a little bit at the end of the season just to get out of games and move on to the next one. But they, for the majority of the season, Georgia had a top 3 or 4 offense as well. So
Right.
you got a top 3 or 4 offense, you got a top 2 defense all year. Like it's hard to beat. And football and college football is not that difficult to understand, like who's gonna win. You throw all these, unless you're Texas A&M, I don't know what they're doing with their 5 stars, but you throw all these 5 stars out on the field with good coaching, they're gonna win the majority of their games, and that's just
Right.
where Georgia sits right now until they don't. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And until that roster starts going down, you're gonna win those games because that's college football in a nutshell. The teams with the players, they're gonna win most of the game. It's kind of unfair, but
Right.
we still watch it, and we want to see it. You know what I mean? But it's not gonna change. You have a TCU, you have a Cincinnati. Every year they might pop up. You know what I mean? But for
Right.
by and large, the teams with the best players are going to win most of the games if they're coached even decently.
And last one before we jump into the daily three, or who knows what we're gonna do. This is, we just do whatever we want on the Ron Johnson show. But when you look at you brought that up about 5-star recruits. You look at NILs right now. Do you think Deion Sanders, and everybody has their opinion about leaving Jackson State? We won't get into that yet. But when you look at Deion Sanders now, the way he's getting kids out this portal, the way Alabama, his nephew's at Alabama, he'll transfer to Colorado to play for his uncle. Do you think Deion Sanders can turn this around in 1 or 2 years in the Power Five conferences by just being a big name and being able to recruit and get players over because of who he is and not just the money?
1 or 2 years is going to be tough. Um, he's probably doing better now, or seemingly doing better now than people would have thought. You know what I mean? Honestly, I didn't think kids that weren't thinking about going to play in Boulder, Colorado before all of a sudden we want to go all the way across the country to play in Boulder, Colorado. Because let's be real, like them dogs come from down south. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. Nowadays you have a few spots here in the Midwest. Your Michigan, your Ohio, but them dogs, they come from the South, and you need them to win. Championships. It's been proven in the last 20 years. To make those kids kind of come out west. He's getting a few. I thought it would be harder, but where it's going to really be different and where it's going to be tough to get is to be really competitive. You got to be solid in the trenches, and we got to see how he does recruiting in the trenches. The lineman going to make the difference. That's where people want to the SEC gets a lot of fanfare, it gets a lot of attention. But the fact of the matter is, the SEC, where the SEC is separated from everyone else, is in the trenches. Everybody got skilled players. Everybody. You know what I mean? They, I don't want to say that dime a dozen, but next time, you walk in Walmart and see how many people that look like, George Foster, for instance, you might not see any. You know what I mean? Just that body type. Then you got to worry about, how are they from the neck up? Linemen are hard to find, and you gotta, in college, in pros, you're looking for about, 8 to 10. In college, you want you a room full. You gotta fill out 90 man rosters. You know what I mean? You want a room full of, linemen that can play football on both sides of the ball. And that's where it's going to be, I think it's going to be difficult for him to build quickly. You know what I mean? If he can build gradually and they give him the time to build the trenches, that's where he'll win. Because you can do things with some marginal skill players. When you get in those trenches and you start facing those teams that are tough in the trenches, that's where you're going to lose. So we'll see. You know what I mean? I hope he does well. I just, it's going to be tough in the trenches for him to get what he needs to be really competitive.
Well, we normally do the Daily 3 here, but before we jump in that, we do have it's going to be a special edition of the Daily 3 in honor of George Foster. I'll tell you what the honor is. Before we do that, people, make sure you remember, subscribe to Locked On Sports Minnesota when you're getting endless Vikings talk with local experts. Subscribe to the free Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast feed, wherever you find your podcast, and find our videos on Locked On Sports Minnesota's YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, and let us know what you think. Well, this is a part of the show that I love. It's normally the Daily 3, but it's Daily 3 guys. 2 big guys and a little guy. Bringing my guy in, special guest, Spice Adams.
Why do you always pop up where I'm at, man? Online. Why do y'all do that?
Can't get rid of me, George.
And you better
so
not
I had
get
to
rid of me, dog.
I had to bring.
You better not.
What you got?
Better not.
I had to bring Spice on because there was a special day. I saw Spice. It popped up on the calendar. Delroy Preston Day is coming up. Every year, Spice Adams finds a way to honor Delroy Preston. Delroy Preston is a character Spice created in honor of George Foster back when he was a scout. Looks like with the Rams. The Walker suit was super legit. I put mine on and sent a picture to Spice one day. Mine was way too big compared to what I am now. And probably was too big then, but that was 2002 NFL rookie from Detroit. The point was big baggy suit. George, yours doesn't look that baggy, but Spice has given you absolute hell every day. Like, I would not have known who George Foster was if it wasn't for Delroy Day. I had to, I started seeing you and Spice interact. I started seeing you pop up, start following you on Twitter. You follow me back. There it is on the calendar. Spice has the calendar ready. November 15th. We missed Delroy Day. We're going to get Delroy on the show every year, November 15th, just to make sure. Spice has problems, man. Spice is an absolute idiot. I'm glad I didn't have social media with Spice growing up in high school because I would have had to drop
He's
out
a
and transfer.
thorn. He's a thorn in my side.
But Delroy, explain the outfit, man. What was going on, and why Spice give you so much heck for the outfit, man?
Listen, man. I guess the Walker suits have went out, but I ain't get the memo. So hey, I threw that joint on, man. I had to wear something, for game day, and I just put it on, man. Hey, cut me some slack. You know what I'm saying? I would have rather had on a sweatsuit or something, but hey, I had to be all professional and whatnot.
We've all been there, man, because like Lauren screamed it. I like to call her.
And they clowned me.
The slack was cut.
Spice, though, man, like Lauren Screendon, it's Screeden, but I like to call her Screendon. It's the name for her I like. And that way, too, like if somebody ever yells out Lauren Screendon, then she knows it's me. She knows it's not some random fan because the fans know her name. I don't. It's Screendon in my mind. I feel like there's an N missing in her name. But Spice's co-host came on my show, Lauren Screeden, and she talked about my shoes that Spice talked about when I was in high school and I couldn't wear them no more. Spice, why are you a jerk? Like, why are you picking on George's outfit? And the man she was showing up to the game clean, man. It looked like he was in Atlanta with the Rams. Like, come on, Spice, what's the deal?
Ryan, rest in peace to your granddaddy. I know he bought you them shoes, but those shoes were awful. You know them shoes was whack.
They was probably polo or something, though, man.
Hey, I'm gonna have to see these shoes.
No, they wasn't.
I'm gonna have to see these bobos. I'm gonna have to see what they talking about.
Man, look, hey George, they was some polo boots. I think my granddad.
And those are the shoes. All you gotta do is put 2 footballs next to your feet. Those was the shoes.
My granddad was like, "Look, you're a football player. You gonna love these shoes, man. They might have been some Spaldings. The leather was a little questionable. It was a little questionable leather there. Yeah,
hey, Spice,
I literally went home
down
and threw
the
them in the
hallway.
trash.
Everybody was trying to scoop and score.
Only reason
man.
they did that is because this idiot got down in 3-point stands at my feet and yelled "hike" and then tried to take my shoes off. Man, and then
Did he try to recover your shoes?
Dog, he threw them down the hallway. You know he a fool. He threw one of my shoes down the hallway and then slid on the floor and like recovered it like a fumble and spiked him. But there's a thing. But then I got him in trouble though because I told his mama because his school sweater was dirty and she was trying to figure out what happened. I'm like, look, mama, like Mama Spice, he slid on the floor in his school clothes. So he got in trouble, but his mom can't really get him in trouble. It's just she look at him like, are you serious right now? And then she goes about her day because she can't do nothing. He was a 320-pound high school kid. Like, what you going to do with that?
Mm-hmm. She need to do something because he grew up to be a menace.
Well, we got Sam Ekstrom. We're going to do a quick little daily 3 with 3 guys. The 3 guys. We got Spice. We got George Foster. We got Ron Johnson. Bringing my producer in, Sam Ekstrom. Sam, what's on the agenda? We got 1 minute each to kind of throw it out there, but what you got?
Yeah, this is an easy one. We've got Ron, who covers the Vikings. We've got Spice, the Bears apologist. We've got George Foster, the former Lion. So I want you all to make a 1-minute argument why your NFC North team will be the champion in 2023 of the NFC North. So we'll start with Ron. We'll let him make the Vikings case. Then we'll go to George, and then we'll go to Spice.
So next year for the NFC, the way I look at this next year for the NFC, I got to go with the Vikings. I think the Packers, we can all agree the Packers are down. Aaron Rodgers may come back, but I don't know if they have the right mindset right now. Everybody's questioning if Aaron's coming back. I think the Bears have to figure out Justin Fields, but clearly this is the best running attack in the NFL, so maybe they can build on it and do the Jalen Hurts thing. For the Lions, I just think they're going to be the Lions. Like, for some reason, being in Detroit, like the Lions always find a way to do what the Lions do, and that's break the hearts of Detroit fans, and they got to go to Motor City Casino and spend all their money because they got to make it back from betting on the Lions. And so I do think right now with the Vikings, even if they do have to get rid of Dalvin Cook for salary, I think Kirk Cousins with another year, Kevin O'Connell in year 2, Justin Jefferson, the best receiver in the NFL. They're going to have to get a lineman in that draft. You got John Michael Schmidt, Gophers center, who is the number 1 center in college football, who could be the first-round pick to the Vikings. I think the Vikings can get it done.
All right, George.
You just said a whole bunch of nothing, Ron. Let me kick it to you. Let me ask you a question. Have any of you ever seen a man score a touchdown with no kneecaps? Dan Campbell and company, they chewing off kneecaps, brother. They chewing off kneecaps. You can't go nowhere without your kneecaps. The Lions will win the NFC North next year. Aaron Rodgers, he's slow. You got the Bears. They gonna bear. Trust me, they gonna bear. Have Spice online doing his little four-cornered, disappointment thing on Instagram, and the Lions just gonna run away with it. You know what I'm saying? They got the big fella catching first downs and whatnot. You got that doggone go blue fella getting sacks and whatnot. They toting the tater all around the ball. Saint Brown, how you gonna go against a good man with a name like Saint Brown? You know what I mean? Go Lions.
Spice.
Well, since the Bears have the #1 rushing attack, and Justin Fields has got a rapport with all of his wide receivers, and we got some great free agent acquisitions in line over the summer, they really got a relationship with each other. And so now the #1 rushing attack becomes the top 5 air attack as well. And then the defense, we lose Roquan Smith. We lose Robert Quinn. And a lot of other guys stepped up. Now we got Jack Sanborn at linebacker, who is a local Lake Zurich guy. Now he becomes the hero. And now everybody steps up. Brisker, all the DBs, they string together to create a great defense along with a great offense. The Chicago Bears, the kings of the NFC North 2023. Here we come, baby. Woo! The Lions, the SOL, same old Lions, the Vikings. Y'all blow y'all horn for nothing. My
Ain't
time
nobody
is up.
scared of the munch. Nobody's scared of the munchkins of the Midway.
Did you see that bear on that moose? Did you see that bear at the wedding? Did y'all see that video of that bear and that moose?
He was on a
No.
He went on a lion.
I'm going to send it to y'all.
It wasn't on a
Oh
lion.
man, I never realized SOL also could be for same old Lions. I was today years old when I realized.
I thought it meant something else.
It do though. That's a. I was today years old when I realized SOL was same old Lions.
I don't know why y'all fronting. Both of y'all Lions fans. Deep
inside, same old Bears.
Deep inside, both of y'all got Barry Sanders posters at y'all parents' house right now. So I don't know why y'all fronting.
George.
Oh, Sam, I just heard that. Sam, that's a good one, Spice. SOB. Same old Bears.
No. Doesn't have the same ring. Doesn't have the same ring.
Yeah. SOB Saab crying when the Bears bear.
It's got a lot of meanings.
Oh man.
Hey,
well, I want to thank
George,
you guys.
I know a guy. I know a guy who can get you good with the Beijing, so you can get that ball taken care of.
He said that thing's smooth, baby.
Spice is a hater. He's always gonna be a hater. He's the #1 hater for Kirk Cousins. We know that. I want to thank you guys for joining me today on the Ron Johnson Show. I want to thank George Foster. I want to thank the special guest Spice Adams for coming in and introducing the world, the Ron Johnson audience, to Delroy Day. So people, please go to Instagram and Twitter and just start Googling Delroy Preston. Delroy Day. It's the only thing out there with Delroy Preston and Delroy Day. November 15th.
I sent somebody that hashtag, and they call me crying. Crying. If you look at the Delroy Preston hashtag, that's going to make your day.
Spice is an idiot. Spice is an absolute jerk. We all know that. He's been a jerk. He gets paid to be a jerk now. But I want to thank you guys for joining me on the Ron Johnson Show. We'll be back next week Colts week. Colts, Vikings, we don't know what's going to happen, but we know we're going to have Cato June. We know we're going to have some great guests from the Colts as well. And then you got the Giants. We're going to have some Giants guests in there. It should be a fun week next week. Christmas is coming up. So if I don't talk to a lot of you, Merry Christmas. Have a great one. And also remember, people, check out our Locked On Sports Minnesota podcast on YouTube following every Twins, Vikings, Wild, or Wolves game. Our Locked On team hosts are broadcasting live with team insiders. Never miss a podcast by subscribing to Locked On Sports Minnesota on YouTube. Thank you and have a great day.